Hey guys, what's going on? KP here, back with another episode of the KP Podcast. Hope you guys are doing well out there. I am super duper excited to bring this next guy on. You've heard his music, I guarantee it. I've been listening to this guy's band for over 10 years now. If you've ever listened to any metalcore ever, you've definitely heard of this band, and I am beyond stoked to bring this guy on. His name is Jim Hocking, the guitarist of For the Fallen Dreams. How you doing today, Jim?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Thanks for being on today. What are you doing to stay sane during all this COVID-19 stuff?
Oh, man. Well, I think busier than I've ever been. I'm not working my normal, off of tour 9 to 5 job right now. But my 4.5-year-old is also not even in school, so I homeschool her for half the day. I handle any band business that I do have going on. I've been writing a new album for FTFD. I run online stores. I've got a whole bunch of stuff on my plate. So
wow, you're definitely staying busy. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, for sure. The time has gone by really, really fast. I've been off of work for 1 month and 1 day, and I feel like it started a week ago, honestly.
Wow. I mean, you don't even get time to enjoy the Final Fantasy VII remake right now, do you?
I have I have I have a ton of new video games on my console, and I haven't touched them.
Wow.
And yeah, honestly, I've been winding down with an oldie, Fallout 2. I've been playing that on my computer.
Okay. We got a Fallout fan. All right.
Yeah, I'm a Fallout fan, but I went backwards, and I got that off of the website, and I think it was $6 or something. And
oh yeah.
I've been playing that an hour a night to wind down, and that's all I've been really messing with.
See, I just got a new widescreen monitor for my PC setup, and I was thinking about getting the original Fallouts because I started with 3, then New Vegas, then 4. Yeah, I play Fallout 76. I'm in West Virginia. I gotta play it. Yeah, and, it's a lot of fun. This is the reason why we do these podcasts, to get to know the people behind the bands a little bit more. Never would I have guessed that you're a big Fallout fan.
Oh yeah, man, huge on RPGs. That's probably the stuff I play the most. I used to play Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering and stuff. So
that's awesome. Well, we're going to dive right into this. Got a lot of questions for you, a lot of stuff that maybe fans want to hear about. Who all is in For the Fallen Dreams right now, and where are you guys from?
So the official lineup that you would see on, in our music videos and, maybe on the road as well is going to be Chad Rulig, our original vocalist. He lives in Saginaw, so he's about 2.5 hours away from me. Myself, obviously, and then Mark Estes, our drummer, who's been with us since since 2016. He's been with us since 2016. He's based out of Chicago. And our longtime bass player, Brandon Stastny, he's actually very deeply involved in Amazon, so he has not been touring with us or really been a part of any of the decision making, just because he's so absolutely busy with that and family down in Florida. So we've had Devin Dickerson, the old guitar player from Legend, Chad's other band. He's been playing bass for us for some tours, and Damon from Of Virtue has been playing bass for us on other tours as well. Okay, I gotcha.
And you're one of the original members as well, right?
Yeah. I started the band when I was in high school, and it was, a low caliber local band for a few years until we started doing DIY tours and things like that.
Okay, I gotcha. So I asked that question because I wanted to talk to someone to kind of walk us through the history of the band. I knew you were the guy to go to. Take us back to when you guys began back in high school. What year was it? Can you describe the band at that time?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say 2000. It was like 2003. Yeah, I was in high school. Me and Andrew Tkaczyk from the Ghost Inside, we've been friends since we were 3 years old. So we started the band just because we had a mutual love for heavy music. We started the band with a couple dudes down there, didn't really do anything. And then, we met Chad by playing shows out in Saginaw and Detroit and stuff. And we got Chad to join the band. That was probably like 2004. We started doing DIY tours in 2005, right after we got out of high school. And then, we were like, I would say we sounded pretty much like Bleeding Through and It Dies Today back then.
And I think if longtime fans do some research or diving, they'll find really original demo stuff where it does not sound the way you guys sound today.
Oh yeah, I mean this band has gone through a lot of changes. It's funny because it's kind of like an extension of myself. It's not really so much of just like a focused project that that fits the mold of the music industry norms, I guess. It's just been something that I do, and whatever comes out it's called For the Fallen Dreams. Anything that's coming out of me that's just kind of what it is. And it evolved into a melodic hardcore band, and then kind of more into the heavier metalcore and things like that.
Gotcha. What was the writing or recording process like for the 2008 debut album, Changes?
That was awesome, actually. So we had a handful of songs demoed already. That's how we got signed by Rise. Rise actually messaged us on MySpace. And we're like, hey, do you guys want to talk about a record contract? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we got signed with Rise in the summer of 2007, and we got sent to Joey Sturgis in his early years. I remember it was only like a few $1,000s to record with him.
Oh, wow.
And we did 10 songs in 10 days. So yeah, we cranked out the whole record in a really short amount of time.
Really?
He had a studio in the garage behind someone else's house in Connorsville, Indiana, which is exactly right in the middle of Indianapolis and Dayton, Ohio. So it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Mm.
But we recorded. We were super stoked on it. We listened to the album the entire way home, probably like 8 times through.
Of course.
Yeah, because we were super stoked on it. But yeah, man, it was a long time ago, but it doesn't feel that long ago. I still have pretty vivid memories of it.
And speaking of vivid memories, not that long ago, you guys had your 10-year, tour of that album. I mean, what was it? What did it feel like playing those songs 10 years later?
It's funny because like a lot of the crowds you could tell were fans from back in those days because they were showing up at 8 or 9 o'clock because they had work, or families and kids. A bunch of older people, older dudes with beards and beer bellies and stuff, and then every once in a while, you'd see some younger kids in the crowd and be like, how the hell do you know this album? Like, there were, 18 and 20-year-old kids coming out and singing the words when, like, the album came out, they were 8 years old. So
right.
It was interesting, but it was cool. I think we practiced, like, once before we left for the tour because, for me, the material it's so ingrained in my mind that it just comes out.
Absolutely.
I got blackout drunk a lot on that tour because I was just, I don't know what was going on, but I got drunk a lot and I would lace every set. It just, like, those songs just come out of me. I don't have to think about it. It's second nature.
Very nice. What about a little bit after that album? Can you tell us what happened? Because there was a lineup change, there was a vocalist change, and this new guy remained your vocalist for a few years. What happened here?
So, 2008, we left for the Rise Records, 2008 tour, which was us, Recon, It Prevails, American Me, and Every Bridge Burn. So a lot of oldie names. I don't think anyone is still around. I think American Me does stuff here and there. But anyway, we were on the way to our first show of the tour, January 3rd, 2008. I don't know why I remember that. It was in Tinley Park.
I'm surprised. All right, good.
But yeah, so we played in Tinley Park and, played a few routing dates on the way out to this tour. And right after that tour, we had about a week off, and then we went on tour with, I think, Arsonist, Get All the Girls, My Children, My Bride, and Stray from the Past. It was Stray from the Past's first, full U.S. tour. We did that directly into a My Children, My Bride headliner, and that directly into an Animosity First Blood tour. So we were gone for the first half of the year. We did not go home. It was 5 or 6 months straight. We took a couple weeks off, and then we went on more tours. I think we wrapped up a 2-month summer tour and then went directly to Europe with the Warriors and the Banner. And then we came home from that and went directly to Australia. So we weren't home, and I think Chad had left in the middle of the year. So he was just completely burnt out. He had no idea, because we had done tours, but he had no idea what it was like.
And you guys were all really young at that time still, right?
Super young. I think back and I'm like, how the fuck did we survive off of $100, $100 for gas, and none of us had money. None of us had jobs. We were super broke.
Even though I asked this, I'm going to ask this next question because I've talked to Shaylee from Of Mice and Men, Dayshell, also been on Rise Records, and I'm gathering a little bit of information on this. Even though you guys were touring nonstop, that doesn't exactly mean you're getting money nonstop, right?
For sure, yeah. I mean, you got to think of a label like a bank. They front the money for the business, and they recoup all of their money before you see anything. They're making money as the time goes on. I mean, they eventually get the best deal, but they're also dumping a lot of money into you for marketing and things like that. You can get tour support, which is usually, it's usually based on how much you're bringing in. But you have to pay back tour support. So if we were getting $10,000 for a month just for all the members to live, that is just going to go in on the books as money that we have to recoup before we get royalty checks. So we never really asked for tour support, or if we absolutely needed help, we would be like, hey, can you pay for a European flight or something like that?
Okay.
But yeah, no, we back then especially, it was just enough money to get us show to show, get in merch debt for a little while, and eat off of the dollar menu every day.
Wow. It's really eye-opening and ear-opening as well. I like hearing about this stuff. So go ahead, tell me about how this new vocalist came into the band.
I mean, as soon as I knew Chad was leaving, I knew who I was going to call, because Dylan Richter was in a band from our area back home. So that was good, close proximity. He was a friend of ours who we had played many shows with his other band. He was not currently in a band, and he was a front man. That was his thing. So instead of us talking about it, it was, all right, I'm going to call Dylan. We're going to get him out here the next day and continue the tour, because Chad, he left in the middle of the tour. So we got Dylan out there the next day. Actually, the day that he got there, we picked him up from the train station or bus station or whatever, went to the show, played, and then we drove. It was us, Bury Your Dead, and Ghost Inside. And we drove. We were in upstate New York. We all drove through the night to get into Canada. And then 10 minutes after we crossed the border, Bury Your Dead flipped their fucking van and trailer across the highway and completely wrecked.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was Dylan's first day on tour. But, he was with us for several years. He did 3 albums with us, and, we're still really good friends today.
Okay, so right now I'm talking to the guitarist of For the Fallen Dreams, Jim Hocking. Were there any different approaches to writing or recording the follow-up 2010 album, Relentless? Okay,
yeah, actually, so there was another lineup change with our. We had a new guitarist come in. This is Chris Kane, who was in Elysia, Bury Your Dead, and he's actually now in Bad Wolves. So he was in the band, and with Andrew and me, Andrew was getting better at doing pre-production, recording and stuff on his computer, and we all ended up, writing songs. Everything was tracked out before we even went into the studio, which for changes, over half of it was just in our heads when we got there. We just had to lay it all out. So this album we had, everything was done before we went in, and then we retracked everything and polished it up and then did vocals. So
now this album comes out. Do you remember or do you recall how fans reacted to the new lineup change, the little bit different sound?
Yeah, so I remember there's always a little bit of pushback with any album that we release.
Always, yeah.
Which, it's to be expected. I think more so, I'm sure we'll get to Backburner, but yeah, Backburner had a worse reaction. But Relentless, because it wasn't quite as, like, raw, hardcore, it was more, it was more metalcore. We lost some of our more, like, some of our harder fans, like the dudes that we were probably like the most melodic band that they listened to. We lost those people. And then we were on a bunch of high-profile tours with bigger bands, and we started getting kind of popular. So some people that don't like popular music started kind of to talk shit, and they didn't like Dylan because Dylan was a pretty tattooed boy, and Chad was this, hardcore-looking dude. So we lost some people because they preferred Chad, and we're always going to have those two different families of fans. One, the Chad people and the Dylan people.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Even to this day, still going on.
For sure.
And you mentioned Backburner. Now, 2011 brought what many fans see as one of your better albums, Backburner. Why do you think this album had so much success?
So first off, instead of going back, because we did Changes and Relentless with Joey Sturgis, and then we decided to change it up. We were going to go to Joey, and we were like, I think there were some scheduling conflicts, and we had the opportunity to go in with Tom Denny, who was with A Day to Remember, and he was kind of their primary songwriter at the time. So we wanted to take his songwriting experience and just kind of have a different feel, something new for us, fresh start type of deal. So that's what we did. And we worked really, really hard on that album. I think we wrote it in a month because we were still touring all the time. But we all got together for about a month in a house. And we wrote about 20 songs, narrowed them down, and then we went into the studio and wrote more songs with Tom.
Wow.
It was a bit of a different structure. We did a live drummer, and because I think Relentless and Changes were both like programmed drums. We did live drums, and Andrew had already left FTFD to go to Ghost Inside. So we had a studio drummer. His name's Will Weatherly. But he's a great drummer. He worked really well for us. And then, the songs that were more of they're more rock. They were a little bit more radio. And we had I'd say The Big Empty was like the big hit on that record. It had a lot of views on YouTube, and even if we play that today, we still get a loud crowd reaction from it. So
absolutely. Now, I do have a couple follow-up questions with this album. Number one, what's your favorite track off this record?
I haven't listened to that album in a while, but I remember the last time I listened to it, I remember thinking, let me look at this. I like Fist Fight a lot. It can be kind of boring to play live for some reason. Deep Down Inside's a good song. Complicated Situation's a good song. There's a lot of really good songs on there. Human Collective always had a really good response. We didn't play it too much, but Yellow was really cool. The second to last track, we had Mike Deuce, formerly from Lower Than Atlantis. He's now doing a project called Headache now. Super sick. You should check it out. But he's on that song if you were wondering who the dude with a hard English accent was.
I do find myself coming back to this album a lot. One, with the production, two, the song structures. I just really like that album a lot. I mean, all your records are great, but for some reason, that one just keeps bringing me back. Now, you said you had a little bit of more pushback with this.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
We had a lot of pushback for that record. So we had built up this, pretty heavy metalcore audience, and then we come out with, I think the first song we released off of that record was My Anthem Like Symphony, because it was a little shorter and it was heavy, but there was a chorus in it, which threw a lot of people off right away.
Yeah.
Then we dropped the Big Empty music video, and people were like, "Oh, fuck this band! They're trying to, the singer looks like Ollie Sykes from Bringing the Horizon. Like, I thought you guys were heavy, like stuff like that." It was kind of.
In case they didn't hear the breakdown in the end of that song, but okay.
Yeah, I know. Like we weren't used to that yet, and we weren't a band that people talked shit about. We were pretty popular, but we didn't have any haters yet, and that got us. I mean, the album made us substantially bigger than we were. We had a great few years where we were on every fucking high profile tour and doing a lot of really cool shit. And reinvesting all the money back into the band. And yeah, that album definitely helped, but there was I think when you get to that point, you just get a lot of pushback regardless of what you're doing.
Absolutely. Now moving forward, 2012 saw a label change and a slight sound change with the album Wasted Youth. What can you tell us about this album?
Well, Wasted Youth, I think we were exhausted from touring so much. We had a bit of infighting around this time because, when you spend so much time with people and it becomes like a brother thing, and you get to brother fist fights and shit like that. And
right.
Especially when there's a lot of booze involved, we drank and partied pretty hard 2011 and 2012. And it definitely, by the end of 2012, we almost broke up. It was only me and Brandon left by then. But
really?
Yeah. I'll get to that in a second. But
okay.
Wasted Youth, we went back to Tom Denny. We were partying a lot. We saw the success that Backburner had brought us, so we wanted to expand on that and continue going in kind of the realm of, a heavy A Day to Remember, stuff like that. I think in hindsight, we maybe went a little bit too far on one end because we got even more pushback on that one. I think we had a 50% of the people that listened to the first song of that we dropped for that record, didn't like it. It was, we were getting destroyed on YouTube. It was kind of a bummer. We didn't know what was going to happen after that, but we had a year full of good tours. So, we made the cycle happen. And, by the end of 2012, we had lost Kalen, our guitar player. He left for Attila, and then everyone else everyone else just peaced out. They were fucking over it. So Brandon and I went home not knowing if we were going to continue on with the band. And then a couple weeks later, after the tour, our manager called me with Chad on the line. So he had a conference call. He's like, "You want Chad to come back to the band?" I was like, "Duh." So.
So your manager brought this to you?
Yeah, our manager was, we had a good working relationship. He was making money, we were making money. Everyone was happy as far as that. So, as a manager, if one of my, top earners was going to break the fuck up, I would be like, nah, let's try and keep this together. It ended up working. I would have done the same thing in his position. So we continued with Chad. Chad came back and he brought Legends drummer with him. So we had a really tight-knit group already because I already knew him.
Right, that worked out.
Yeah.
Right now I'm talking to guitarist Jim Hocking of the band For the Fallen Dreams. You guys just brought back Chad, the original vocalist from the first album Changes, and once he was announced back, I remember the single Substance coming out, and then shortly after that, the album Heavy Hearts. Can you tell us about how it was during this time for the band? You got a new lineup, maybe a little bit more different sound, anything like that? Yeah,
so, we ended up, when Kalen left the band in 2012, we've been a four-piece stint. It's one less mouth to feed. It's just a lot easier. It was more cohesive. We didn't have to bring anyone in new, didn't have to train them, didn't have to get them acquainted with everyone's personality. So we had Naveed Nagbi from, he had toured with, he was in Legend, he was in Abacab, he was in a bunch of bands, he had industry experience. So he was with us, and we had Chad and we had Brandon. So we were a tight-knit group. We were excited for the future. It was kind of a back-to-basics type of thing. So we cranked out Substance with Josh Schroeder, and then I think we started recording Heavy Hearts in like summer of 2013, and it didn't come out for like a year. It took so long to get everything just done and communicated with a release date and everything. I don't know why, but it just did. And then we did some more tours. We were sort of like Motionless in White and Miss May I and a few other bands on that cycle. Went to Japan. It was a good one for sure.
Now, Substance and Heavy Hearts really brought you as the second vocalist, correct?
Yeah. So Substance, I was like, I hear this. I hear something in this, in this part. So I started, kind of doing like a yelly, screamy, thingy thing, and I did that more on Heavy Hearts, which I also started using 7 strings for. There's 3 songs on 7 string for Heavy Hearts. So I just tried to use more tools. I got better at singing for that record, and then I obviously do a lot of it now, and I plan on doing even more on the next record. But I think style-wise, we tried to appease. I think that's a little bit strong of a word, but we wanted to appease the fans that we had maybe lost years before. We wanted to get them excited about the band again, get the Changes and Relentless kids back, and still maintain the backburner Wasted Youth crowd. And I think we did a pretty good job at that. There's like some really classic FTFD sounds on there, and then there's some really, really heavy stuff because we expanded and I was playing 7-string guitars and stuff like that. So
absolutely, I think every album from you guys has its own unique sound, while the band also has its own unique sound. I mean, I don't really hear anything else like it out there. And with that release of Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure if there were Dylan fans out there that were like, "Oh, you guys are different now," or whatever it might be.
Yeah, there were some, but there were also like some fans that are just like band, the type of fanatic person. They were like, well, whatever, it's still the band. They're still heavy. They're still singing. Like it's mostly there for me. So we had there wasn't pushback, but there were a couple people who were upset about it.
So 2018 saw the release of the album Sick. What was your involvement with this album?
So I wrote 100% of the album. I wrote, like, music-wise, I wrote about 75% of the lyrics, too.
Oh, wow.
And that was not planned at all. But, so musically, I had written about 20 songs for it, and we narrowed them down to the ones we wanted to keep. And I had wrote it so there was more, some of the structure that you would see on something like Backburner and Wasted Youth, more like of a rock structure. But I kept it really heavy and, wanted to appeal to radio rock, wanted to appeal to the metalcore kids, wanted to I just wanted to, it was the album that I was like, well, fuck it, we're here. So we might as well do whatever we want. So we wrote the album we really wanted to write. I sang a lot more, and I had a fucking blast doing it. And then, Chad he works like blue collar construction, so he can't be like, hey boss, can I go to the studio and record? Like, he's gonna be like, fuck no. So Chad would come in when he could, and so I did all of the music arrangement. And when we kind of got down to crunch time, where it was like, dude, if he can't make it in here, we have to write the lyrics. And I was like, okay. So Josh and I wrote the lyrics for a lot of stuff. He came in prepared, plenty of times, but for the bulk of it, we just had to do it. Like, we didn't have a choice. But I think it worked out. Josh and I meshed really well for songwriting, things like that. And he's got a good vision. We work really well together. So.
And Chad had a little bit of a change with his vocal style as well. I mean, he added more flavor to it.
Yeah, more than just his fucking monster sound. He's in my band, but he's always been one of my favorite, like, heavy music vocalists.
Yeah, so, he definitely has his own sound, and it's great.
It's funny because there are some metalcore bands, some that are actually sizable metalcore bands that I can tell are trying to sound like Chad, but they just don't because Chad's a beast and they are not. But it's whatever. But Yeah, he came in like that. Like I was saying, like he would come in prepared with lyrics when he needed to. But he also started using new vocal techniques, which we were very excited about because it broke it up a little bit more, made it less monotonous, and I think it's kind of impressive for a listener too.
Now, once that album came out, 6, what was the response to this? I mean, I'm looking at numbers here, and you got quite a lot of numbers from different songs off of this album.
Yeah, man. So we dropped Stone first. Or no, sorry. We dropped 10 Years first, and that was just like kind of an album preview thing. And then about a week or two later, we dropped the video for Stone. And people were fucking pretty stoked, honestly. Chad's there. I'm singing. It was a new feel. It was super upbeat and positive. The lyrics for Stone are, very upbeat, so we wanted to keep it. We wanted to drop that one first for the videos, and it worked out well because a few months later, we dropped Unstoppable, and that thing, that's at 12.5 million views on YouTube.
Now, where was that video shot at?
So I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and about 40 minutes away, there's a town on the coast called Grand Haven. And on, like, the coast in Grand Haven, in the wintertime, it gets fucking crazy. There's so much wind coming in from the west, and it pushes all the water up and freezes it onto the beach. So you get these huge fucking cliffs. They're called ice fields. So technically, we were standing on top of the water, but there was several feet of water, or several feet of ice that was just, there were rolling hills and cliffs of ice that break and shit. It's crazy. But if you get close to the water, you can hear everything shift. You can hear all the ice moving. Crazy.
How cold was that video shoot? How long was that video shoot?
It was 10 hours in 8-degree weather.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was 8.
Now, I got to say, it had to have been worth it, because if you look at this video, and anyone listening, you have to go watch it. It's put together.
It's super, so they actually went out to test that spot the day before, and it was a fucking, gray cloud of just wind and snow. They couldn't see anything. So we drove out the next morning. It was pretty clear, and then when we started shooting, the sun came out. So we were like, fuck yes. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, so we had lots of light. The light is pretty much what kept us alive because, the sun was warm on your skin, but it was still, 8 degrees and windy and cold.
That's crazy. I love hearing stories about how albums are made, how videos are made, and stuff like that. And that's the main reason why I do this podcast. So I do have a few more questions for you, and then we'll wrap things up. You've toured countless times. Do you have any favorite tour stories or moments you would like to share?
Oh my God. That's tough, man. That's I have a lot of really crazy stories. I feel like sometimes I'll look back and I'm like, damn, I think I've forgotten most of my touring days. Not even that we're done touring or anything, but I guess we are for now. But yeah, man. We've gotten into 25-person fist fights in foreign countries with strangers, drunk strangers trying to beat us up. We've gotten detained in foreign countries. I wouldn't even know where to start. I feel like I tell a lot of tour stories, but then when someone asks me to tell them one, I don't have. They don't come to you until something reminds you of them, I guess.
That's okay. It's happened plenty of times on this show already.
I've had some crazy shit happen, but yeah, man, it just kind of comes with the territory of traveling. Weird shit is going to happen. Absolutely.
And I guarantee if you go through a certain state, so let's say, I don't know, California, you're going to think of 3 different tour stories already. Oh yeah, I remember in this spot when this happened or whatever it might be. Yeah.
Oh wait, I got a crazy short one for you.
Yeah, go for it.
It's kind of dark. It's kind of a bummer, but it's just it goes to show what kind of shit you're going to see when you're out there.
Yeah, tell us.
We were in Indonesia, I think in the city of Surabaya, and it's a really, really, really busy area. And if you're familiar with Asian transit. They use a lot of mopeds and stuff, so they're zipping around all the cars, like the traffic crazy. And they don't wait, like, it's not like you wait for the right of way. It's you just merge into traffic and they're supposed to stop. So you always think you're going to die. And when we were walking through the city one day, we saw a white sheet in the middle of the road with a body under it. Like if this dude had fallen on his bike and the traffic it was so crazy that no one had gotten there yet, so they just put a sheet over his body and moved his bike out of the road and continued. Everyone was just driving around him.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking, yeah, it's nuts. We didn't know what to do. We just kept going.
Right. Well, like, I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah, I know. Like, it was not like we tripped over his body or anything. We saw it was about 20 or 30 feet away, like in the middle of the street. And yeah, the guys were like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Let's go." Like our tour managers and stuff.
Right. What advice would you give to newer or up and coming bands? I mean, you've seen all the different changes throughout this years going by. You've been at the bottom. You've toured all over the world. You've got to have some advice for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say first and foremost, stay humble. Stay very, very humble because it might not happen for you, and you don't want to get a big fucking head before something happens and then be completely dishonored. It's just, I actually recently saw some shit go down in my area with a local band here, and some shit happened with them, and some of the stuff that he was saying about them was just completely, like, insane. Like, I can't believe you think that fucking matters. Like, they got this watch endorsement, and he was talking about how, he's like, yeah, I can't believe no one signed us yet. I mean, they see us in these watches, like, are you serious? Like, and he was trying to talk to girls and, you know, try and get a bunch of girls like, hey, babe, don't you want to watch me be my hot chick side stage and like fucking watch your man shred arenas, like, and they haven't even played a fucking local show.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, don't let it go to your head. I definitely didn't, because I know that there's always going to be a fucking band bigger than me, making more money than me, like doing all this. Like, I do it because I enjoy it. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't fucking do it. And then I would say work smart, and also work hard, but working smart is very, very important. Spotify plays matter, and they don't matter. They matter because it means that someone wants to hear your songs, but if you're one of those guys, you know, like in some local bands think numbers are all that matters, but then they go on tour and they don't draw fucking anybody. So yeah, don't pay attention to that.
Very well said. Are you guys working on new music right now?
Yeah, I have several songs like in the works or finished as far as pre-production goes. Okay. And we'll be going into a studio to record singles to release sometime this year, hopefully, if all this shit goes up. Right. Streams are way down right now, and like engagement with new music has kind of tanked. So a lot of people are holding off on their stuff. Right,
and it's not just the music industry. You're looking at video games, movies, you name it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I will be excited for that regardless. Any final words for fans? There might be some old fans listening, maybe some new fans listening.
I would say times are tough for all bands right now, so go buy some merch if it's available. Go stream some stuff, listen to an album you haven't listened to before, and then keep your eyes out for new music from us, because that will be happening hopefully this year.
Very nice. All right, Jim, thank you so much for being on the show today. I will be talking to you here in a second off air, okay?
Yeah, sounds good, man.
All right. That is Jim Hocking from the band For the Fallen Dreams. Can't believe I got that guy on the show. Very big fan. Been a fan of them for a long time. I think I got into them around the Relentless era of them, but I mean, all their albums are good. Again, you got to check out that Unstoppable music video off their album number 6. It is crazy, well put together, sounds great, looks great, and if you think about Jim playing this song over and over and over for 10 hours in 8-degree weather, well, maybe you'll have a better appreciation for it. That's going to do it for this episode of the KP Podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. We'll see you guys next time.